everyone, Alexa Dunn here, and today I am talking all about jealousy in publishing. Jealousy is a reality in publishing. It is really a reality in any creative industry. I mean, I think it's just a reality, but especially in publishing, you are going to get jealous all of the time. Professional jealousy is the norm. Everyone experiences jealousy and comparing themselves to other people in some capacity as they go through the publishing journey. It never really goes away. It comes in waves, and you can feel it and experience it about all sorts of people, from your enemies to your closest friends. I want to talk a bit about kind of how to deal with it, how to process it, both kind of what's normal versus what's gonna eat you alive and really hurt you as a person and hurt your career and your relationships. It's really easy to play the comparison game, and people will tell you not to. I hear that advice all the time, and I get it, I give it, but I also hate it, because comparing yourselves to others is really natural. And you're gonna do it, so don't beat yourself up too much for doing it. And as you do it and you experience these pangs of jealousy, rationally, you're going to know that it's stupid or wrong, or, that you have no reason to feel that way because you have X, so why does it matter that someone else has Y? Ultimately, I think it is just important to acknowledge the jealous feelings that you have and come up with healthy ways to cope with jealousy, because the key is you can't let professional jealousy eat you alive. Because unless you learn to manage jealousy in a healthy way, you're not going to survive in publishing. A huge part of this is that bitter is a very bad look. If you are the bitter Betty who's always upset, who's always complaining, who's always jealous, whining, who isn't nice to other people because they have what you want, and you develop a reputation for never being happy and being very petty and jealous, that's going to impact you in the long run, because no one really wants to work with that kind of person and no one wants to be friends with that kind of person. And jealousy can most definitely destroy friendships in this industry. Some things that are really important to remember is that nothing is ever going to be equitable in publishing. Someone else is always going to have something that you don't have that you want. And so many things in publishing are impacted by things entirely out of your control, like luck, timing, bias, appearance, personality, the market. So many things impact kind of what happens with a book or an author, when, where, why, how. And generally, nothing is ever fair for anyone, so you'll really drive yourself around the twist if you focus on the inequities all the time and never stop to kind of focus on your own paper and take a deep breath and kind of take stock of what you do have. Generally, I don't advise getting too jealous about books that are outside of your genre, especially, or kind of authors who are in just a different situation. So often kind of the market and the publisher and their various strategy will determine what book and what author gets what, when, where, and how. And so if you hyper-focus on these things that are entirely out of your control, it's just not healthy. So for example, if you're a sci-fi writer, don't hyper-focus on all the things that the big mainstream fantasy title is getting, because that's like comparing apples and oranges. It's just a totally different ballgame, and that's the kind of jealousy that does eat you alive. And don't be jealous of authors who are outside your weight class, so to speak. Like, there is no point in you, the baby debut author, hyper-focusing on the A-list, cream of the crop, New York Times bestseller, career author, and all the things they have. Well, of course they have those things. They've been doing this for a while, or they got incredibly lucky, they have very passionate fans, so on, so on, so on. So don't compare your marketing plans or your advance or your sales, definitely don't compare your sales, buzz, etc. It's just going to drive you mad. So much of this boils down to don't stress out about the things that you can't control. And so many of the things that you can't control in publishing do fuel jealousy and hurt and bitter feelings. Another thing to remember is that publishing is a very appearance, kind of best foot forward, public facing kind of industry. You'll notice that on social media, Everyone always shares all the great things. So, I was featured in an article, or I got a star, or, this wonderful fan sent me a message, etc., so on and so forth. And we don't really post the bad things. Part of that is just industry standard. It's not a good look to complain about things. I mean, look at what I'm talking about in this video. But it's also just, social media is branding, and you want to always have your best face on and be positive and talk about the good stuff. But because we only talk about the good stuff, everyone gets the impression that that person has all the things. It's all good all the time. And then we start to convince ourselves that we're the only one that feels this way, that we're the only one for whom things are really hard right now. And so we focus on the public perception of what is going on for other authors. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So, for example, that author who has all this fabulous stuff happening, and you love that graphic they posted for their pre-order campaign, and they have a cool pre-order campaign, and it's got a lot of retweets, and so on and so on and so on. What you don't know sometimes is that the author did that by themselves because they're getting no marketing support from their publisher, or you see them going to some fabulous event. You assume, all expenses paid by their publisher, I'm so jealous. Well, they might have paid for that trip themselves and made their own connections to get themselves to that con. You never know what is actually going on, and you can get needlessly and fruitlessly jealous of people when there's no reason to. The other thing that I find really funny is, while you're being jealous of someone else, you never know who is jealous of you, because you're gonna have stuff and things going on, and you're going to present them fabulously on social media, and people will be like, oh, I'm so jealous. They have all the things, but they don't know about the things that you're angsting about. I think it's healthy to always assume that the person on the other side has their own stuff going on, and that it's not all hunky-dory, green grass, blue skies for them all the time either. The other thing that I've personally experienced, and this is just such a kicker about how jealousy works and publishing, it's always the thing that we want the most, or that we personally feel has the most value for what will validate us, that we don't get. We'll get a lot of other really wonderful things, but it's always going to be that one thing, and there's always going to be that one thing that you really wanted, that you're looking for to validate you, and you don't get it, but someone else does. There's always going to be that thing. And really, I think we're never entirely satisfied, us creative types, and especially not in publishing. There's always something to be striving for, something that's not good enough, and it can really eat you up inside. And it's easier said than done, and you are allowed to feel your feelings, but you have to let go of that as much as humanly possible, because nothing is ever going to be completely perfect and the way that you want. And this leads me to the stickiest of sticky topics, which is when you are jealous of your friends. This is going to happen. I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't. And it can be tricky. So honestly, some professional writer friendships end because of jealousy. They just implode and fall apart. It does happen. Sometimes it's just not possible to push through it, but I'm an optimist. I think the way to deal with jealousy when you are jealous of friends, first of all, remind yourself of all the things I've already talked about, that nothing's fair in publishing, that everyone gets some things and not others, that you shouldn't worry about things, outside your genre, or, I didn't even say, if you're with a small publisher and someone else is with a big publisher, don't twist yourself into a pretzel being jealous, because things are just different at different places. When it's a friend, it's particularly hard, and this is why my advice is to lean into your happiness. Be happy for your friend. Be genuinely happy for your friend, because they're your friend, because you love your friend, you love their book, and you want them to succeed. And when you lean into the positive feelings, the jealousy sucks. It does suck, and the key is to have a different friend, ideally not connected to the first friend, with whom you can gently vent your feelings. Don't go full bitter on friend jealousy, because, honestly, if you're feeling truly disgusting thoughts about a friend, maybe you're not really friends. But generally, in my experience, when you are jealous of your close friends, it's mild jealousy. It's like a pang in your stomach. You gotta talk it through with someone else, take a deep breath, and wrap yourself in being happy for your friend. Because it's all gonna come back to you. You maintain those friendships. You're there for each other when you do have the ups and downs, because again, that friend who got a cool thing that you got a pang in your stomach, there's going to be a thing that you get that they're gonna have a pang in their stomach about. And also, a rising tide lifts all boats. You wanna go with your friends and be happy for them when they get cool things. They'll be happy for you when you get cool things, and you can pull each other along in this weird publishing journey. I don't think it's worth just ruining friendship, throwing away friendships over petty jealousy. But I do want to acknowledge that it does happen. It's going to happen. The key is all in how you manage it. Which brings me to some of my tips for generally managing the green-eyed monster in publishing. Personally, I think jealousy is best managed when you exercise humility, grace, as many reality checks as humanly possible, and light venting to friends. First of all, I like to always remind myself how lucky I am to be published at all, to have had successes, because of course I'm focusing on jealousy in publishing, and I failed to mention this happens at all levels. This happens when you're writing a book, revising a book, querying, getting agents, going on submission, and then post-book deal in the broad landscape of all the things you can be jealous of once that happens. Always remind yourself that you have good stuff going for you, even if you don't have all the things. You finished a book, you had a good response rate on your query, you have the next book, you have a great agent, so it doesn't matter if that person's agent is like insane superstar levels of agent. You love your agent. You know, you have a book deal, you have a book coming out, and you have people who believe in you, even if you don't have all of the things. And then just acknowledge your jealous feelings, that your feelings are legitimate. Jealousy is a legitimate feeling. Did you know that they almost put jealousy in the original Inside Out? So they thought it was legitimate enough to almost put it in the movie. But ultimately you have to acknowledge that jealousy is meaningless. It's this churning, bitter, acidic feeling, but it very rarely actually does anything for you. And remind yourself that whole things aren't always as they seem piece, and as I said, always assume that the other person has stuff going on too. That reminder to yourself will help you let go of some of the worst of your feelings, that they have the cool thing. They also don't have other things that you have or that other people have. We all have these feelings. Also remember that publishing is a very long game. It is a marathon and not a sprint. So don't get hung up on all of the petty jealousies of now, because things can totally change. The person who's the belle of the ball right now in the moment for their debut, for example, might not have the same marketing support or even a career a couple years down the line. So if you've ever been, focusing on your own career and your own craft, grateful for the things you have, surrounding yourself by great friends, and kind of pushing through, maybe you will be the belle of the ball later. And in that moment, I think it's good for all of us to kind of reach out to each other and lift each other up and just be nicer to each other, even when we do feel these jealous feelings, because someone's gonna be on top and then they're gonna be on bottom, or they'll fall to the middle, whatever it is. Very few people always have all of the things, and even the people who seem to have all of the things, there's something that they don't have. But it's important to not let jealousy burn you up from the inside and burn you out on the industry, because it's a long game, this industry, and you need to hang on to your career. Don't become that bitter, whiny, unpleasant person that no one wants to be friends with and no one wants to work with. That is just a surefire way to torpedo your career. And finally, seriously, friends are so important. Professional friends who are approximately around or at your level, with whom you can have honest and frank conversations about all of the stuff going on and all the feelings that you're feeling. Publishing friends not only offer really great reality checks. When you're experiencing something, they'll go, "Oh, that happened to me too," or, "Oh, this thing that you're interpreting or assuming, actually it's like this, so you don't need to be jealous because that thing doesn't mean the thing that you think it does." Or they just listen to you and validate your feelings. They say, "That really sucks. I understand how you're feeling,
But you're amazing, you can pull through this. They're there to support you and you're there to support them. Having a good, robust circle of publishing professional friends, I think is essential for pushing through this. In combination with that, be happy for your friends' peace, because you're not gonna end up with a robust, amazing circle of professional friends if you're jealous of them all the time and you let that come out like passive aggressively or aggressively. So think about all of those different things in terms of how you see jealousy and how you process jealousy in the publishing industry. It's never gonna go away, and the feeling is very natural, but you can channel it so it doesn't eat you from the inside and ruin you forever. So that is my little soapbox moment on jealousy in the publishing industry. What's real and natural versus what isn't, taking it too far, and how to manage it. Let me know down below in the comments if you have any questions. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I will do more meta videos about kind of the weird stuff that goes on in the publishing industry. If you're not already subscribed, I post new videos 2 to 3 times a week all about writing, craft, young adult fiction, getting published, the traditional publishing industry, and so on. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, guys, happy writing.